All right, my friends, we are live, and I am Emma Lewzey. I'm at 𝗕𝗵𝗁 Philanthropy, and I am joined by John Lepp of Agents of Good and Beth Ann Locke, your fundraising coach. And we are here today to talk all about 3 year-end mistakes you may be making in your fundraising. So welcome, everybody.
Hey.
Thanks, Emma. Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to start with you, John. Can you just introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about what you do and who you serve?
Sure. I'm John Lepp, and I'm a partner at Agents of Good here in Canada. And we work with charities and not-for-profits literally around the world, which is amazing, helping them tell great stories and feel more connected to their donors and the important work that the donors are doing. And I'm a super nerd for direct response and envelopes. Most of the time, I obsess over envelopes. So
I love that. I love a good envelope.
Yeah.
How about you, Beth Ann?
I'm Beth Ann Locke, and I'm the Chief Spark at the Fundraiser Coach. I work with Major Gift and other fundraising professionals, and I also consult with nonprofits. I believe there's lots of ways we can do better with our fundraising, and building strong relationships is one of them. So that's what I like to focus on.
Awesome. And if we haven't met yet, my name's Emma Lewzey. I'm at 𝗕𝗵𝗁 Philanthropy, and I help fundraisers and nonprofit leaders raise more 5, 6, and 7-figure gifts for their amazing missions. So, and hello to folks who are just joining us now. I see Joe calling in all the way from Amsterdam. Hey, Joe. And so if you are joining us live, go ahead and drop below. Let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to hear that. If you are catching up on the replay, let us know by using the hashtag replay. And at any time during the live broadcast or the replay, we want to hear all of your questions. So go ahead and drop those below. We would love to hear from you and help you out with your biggest year-end fundraising challenges. So today, as I mentioned, if you're just joining us, we're talking about 3 year-end fundraising mistakes you may be making. We're also going to be talking about how to fix them. And we're actually going to kick things off with John. So John, what's the big year-end fundraising mistake you're seeing a lot of folks making right now?
Oh, the biggest thing I think I said already, I obsess over envelopes because, I work with an amazing writer named Jen Love. I work with lots of amazing writers. And, if they do the most compelling job and write the best appeal they've ever written, and the donor just goes right by the envelope, for example, then I've failed Jen, I've failed the cause, I've failed everybody. So I do obsess over envelopes for that reason. So like in Canada, for example, donors are getting between 40 and 50 appeals, especially this time of year. Mm-hmm. If you're down in the United States, for example, you're getting between 40 and 50 appeals a day. So there's a monumental amount of mail that people are getting. And so you have to be obsessive and understand all the things you need to do to stand out. So I'm always trying to think of what are some compelling ways I can make sure that my envelope gets noticed. And the number one mistake I see most of the time is that all the envelopes tend to look very manufactured. They look like a computer made them. And so I know in direct response, the basic truth of direct response is the more it looks like something that I sent to you, Emma, for example, the more likely you're going to open it. And so especially this time of year, I always err on the side of undesigning envelopes. I want to really look like a human, put this together just for you. So anything you can do to stand out, different sizes, different colors, handwriting, anything that looks like a human put together is going to serve you and not hurt you.
I love that. That is such a good tip.
Thank you.
I want to actually ask you about a bigger picture mistake I see a lot of folks making, which is not leveraging mail, period. I see that with a lot of clients. They're really moving towards digital and not understanding how important taking that multi-channel approach is. So actually, can you talk to us a little bit more and maybe share some of your wisdom about that? Is like, why does mail continue to be so important? Because I know you at Agents of Good do a lot of multi-channel work. You still highly, highly value mail as a channel.
Because it still works. I mean, the online giving, certainly through this year with COVID, I think there's been a certain increase in giving online. Generally speaking, it still accounts for 7 or 8% of all fundraising. So mail is still really prevalent in terms of reaching donors. They still love to get mail. They more often now are putting down the mail and going online to give, again, especially right now with the whole COVID pandemic. But generally speaking, it's still very, very effective, more than any other channel for individual giving. So any organization, I know it's not cheap to do, and I think that's usually the barrier. People are like, I only have 1,000 donors. It doesn't make sense to do a mailing that's going to cost $2 per piece. But again, when you look at the return on that, if you do a really good DM piece, it's well worth it. So I don't know why people are shunning it. I think people just don't understand it, and I think it's easy to go, well, digital, everyone's it's cheaper to do, and so let's do it that way. Misinformed.
And I think people look at the wrong investment scale. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
So there you
go. Okay, I love that. Good follow-up question. Is my sound okay? I'm getting a bit of echo. I just want to make sure folks can hear me okay.
I can hear you, the echo.
Yep.
Okay, if you're anyone having trouble with the sound, drop us a word below, but we'll assume everything sounds okay unless we hear otherwise. This is one of the fun things about going live, is you just never know what's going to happen with the tech. Yeah, there's some echo happening when I talk. Let me try a different mic. All right, is that any better?
Yes.
Okay, great. I know. I don't know if this is a Mercury retrograde crowd, but I have some colleagues who are full believers in that, and I'm seeing that like my tech is just disintegrating this week. Okay, hopefully the echo is gone now, and we've resolved that. And let's go on to Beth Ann. Beth Ann, talk to us a little bit about what mistake you are seeing folks making right now during their year-end fundraising. Shanna, is there still an echo on your end? And Beth, while you go ahead with that while we're sorting out the tech issues.
So I always suggest that people have sort of a top 10 and 20 that they're working on during the week. So I think one of the biggest things is being fearful to call someone because you're not going to bat 1,000. I really also believe in picking up the phone to call people, even though it's a big political season right now and people are avoiding the phone sometimes. Call if you don't get them. Leave the message that you're sending an email, thank them for their previous giving, and suggest another time that you're going to call. Don't wait for them to make a time to call. Just say, I'm going to call back again at Friday at 2. Put that in your calendar. Your donor may not be able to make it, but they're going to start focusing on saying, oh, actually, can we talk on Thursday or the following week, and find a time. Leaving it open-ended because you're afraid to have them say no about the time you choose ends up making there never being a time, and missing appointments. You never will be able to get a good talk and then gift ask in if you don't get the connection. So I also, can I have another one? Just have another 10 people that gave at the beginning of the year that you're just going to call and thank in between your calls. You're not asking them for money. You're just thanking them for everything they did this year. You want to reiterate your appreciation and, some metrics about your impact, kids, dogs, adults, whatever you're doing, just let them know that happened this year because of their gift early in 2020.
I love this. So we truly are seeing like a multi-challenge approach to fixing some of the mistakes folks are making. We're talking about using mail effectively. We're talking about using the phone effectively. Now, Beth Ann, one thing I've been talking a lot with the students about in my major gift program is mindset around major gifts. And one thing we were talking about just yesterday was the idea of like the 500-pound phone and how hard it can be to pick up for some folks, especially for introverts. So I wonder if you have any tips for folks around building up your courage and practicing using the phone more often, because it really is one of the most effective channels you need to be using to connect with your donors, especially your major donors.
Exactly. So if any of the people listening have a grandparent, probably if you couldn't walk to see them or drive to see them easily, or maybe even now you're calling them, and those feel very natural to you. So you might do something as easy as calling your mom and dad, calling your grandparents, and first practicing doing that. I also suggest that you write down a few questions if you're not a natural, if you're not good at ad-libbing. So you might be able to do that in person or with somebody you know. When I was early starting out in Major Gifts, because the way my parents raised me, I just never felt comfortable calling older people by their first name. Hello, Bob, you're 80, but I'm still going to call you Bob, and I'm 23. That was hard for me to get over. So I think just thinking about for me, it's about making connection and thinking about people wanting to hear the impact of their gift, if that helps your headspace. It's so great to hear that, even though schools are closed, we got, 12 scholarships this year, and we were able to get more kids in. That kind of, or they're not closed, but working remotely, I beg your pardon. Those kinds of things feel really good to hear about, just remembering that your dollar is still working on the impact. So remember who you're calling, make a connection, and write down, hi, it's me from X, what I'm going to talk about. I just want to thank you and wonder if we have time to talk a little further.
I love it. Those are some great practical tips. Thank you so much. Okay. Again, if you're just joining us, I see some folks coming on right now. Go ahead. If you have any questions for us, go ahead and drop them below. I have a mistake I want to talk about, but before I do, we had a couple of follow-up questions and requests. One I love from Joe says, John, can you show us some good envelopes? You may not be able to do that right off the bat, but I know you've actually got some really good, I love the series you do on your website, so maybe we can direct folks there. Tell us a little bit about because I've seen some good examples of how to put the envelope together on your website, right? Is it your great Star Wars series?
Yeah. Yes, so at agentsofgood.org, we have the Star Wars series. Jen and I actually just revamped the site, so we trimmed down a lot of the old blog posts, but this is kind of a precursor to our thing next week, correct? Yeah. So when we're doing a longer 2-hour session, you can sign up for, and we'll deep dive into some of these ideas a bit more. And Joe, I will make sure to include a bunch of different envelopes to highlight what I'm talking about. I was going to focus on one example, but that's okay. I'm still a week out. I can rebuild a few bits and add in more examples. But Joe, you can also reach me. You can see my Twitter name there. Just send me a note too. I can always send you some things through DM or whatever. We'll figure it out. You'll see envelopes. No problem.
Yeah. I love it. I love all those examples. That's perfect. So any other questions? We seem to have reduced our tech issues, which is great. So excellent. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and and let me follow up with John's point. I will end up dropping the link below for you, and we'll talk about it at the end. But we are joining forces next week for our 2-hour workshop. And we're going to be talking all things year-end fundraising. And we are also going to be doing some hot seat coaching. So we're actually going to be getting folks on and giving you like immediate hands-on help with your biggest challenges. So keep a lookout below. You can also find that link on my website at 𝗤𝗲𝗄𝗎𝗆𝗀𝗄𝗏.com. So I got all fancy for my mistake. So I could go ahead and share my screen. So I got super inspired by something I saw when I was reading this morning that totally connects with what we're talking about. And of course, my screen share is flickering. So hello, tech friend.
Trigger warning.
I'm not having a good tech day today, people. Okay, so I'm not going to share my screen anymore.
Thank you.
Honestly, it's quite funny. Mic's not working, screen share's not working. My friend is
going everywhere, Emma.
This is the beauty. Were you not on with me when I did that before and it works fine?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and freestyle this one without my slide. So the mistake I want to talk about actually kind of touches on something that Beth Ann was talking about. And that's really about focus and, constraining your efforts where they're going to have the greatest impact. So that slide I was unsuccessfully sharing with you actually inspired me from a great book called Essentialism. It's the discipline of doing less. And what the author talks a lot about is just that idea of how many of us are spreading our energy so thin, trying to take advantage of so many opportunities at once. He's got a great phrase. He talks about making a millimeter of progress in a million different directions, right? So when we're doing this, I think it can really end up reducing our effectiveness and making sure that we aren't actually moving the needle on fundraising. And I think this is especially high risk for folks at year end. So I really experienced this myself personally when I took over fundraising at a small shop right at the beginning of year end. This was many years ago now. And what I got into was the holiday season. And what I quickly discovered is that donors were actually driving the fundraising priorities. And what donors wanted to do the most was donate holiday gifts for the children that we worked with, right? So we had a little bit of a conflict between what we needed to do in terms of our focus to raise the money we needed for our mission and what our donors wanted to do. And what I found was myself being torn in a million different directions and making probably less than a millimeter of progress in all those different directions. So that, I have to say, was a really big learning experience for me in a couple of different ways. One is to make sure that you're really understanding and like taking back control over where you're focusing your time and where you're focusing your priorities, because I believe we have much more choice around where and how we spend our time than we often really believe. So, I would say don't hesitate. A good fix for this mistake is do not allow yourself to get so busy that you're not like pausing to reflect and understand, am I actually investing my time in the highest value activities right now in order to get the results that we're looking for during our year-end fundraising season? Because it can be very easy, as I discovered, running around town, picking up holiday gifts for folks. Lovely thought, lovely motivation, but we were really allowing the desires of our donors to kind of pull us off track from what was working most effectively in order for us to raise the maximum amount of money we needed to during the super important year-end holiday season. So I suspect when I work with small shops, this may resonate with you, especially if you work with children and youth this time of year. We really, this is a super big challenge, but we do have to think about getting more strategic and more purposeful about how and where we're investing our time and what activities we are investing in. So it kind of links back a lot of ways to what both of you are saying, is just really being purposeful about understanding the impact, understanding what the highest value activity is, and really being disciplined about focusing in on that. So I couldn't share my great slide, but at least I was able to share the idea with you on that one. So I really encourage folks to get focused in and carve out that time, carve out that thinking time. How about you both as business owners? We're all so busy this time of year. It's one of the things we were talking about before we logged on. And I hate to get onto that busy bus where everyone's like, I'm so busy, I've got no time. But it's easy trap to fall into. Like, how do both of you make sure that you're carving out time for thinking and strategy, especially right now when all of us are actually going at 100 miles an hour, trying to get everything done during what is also our busy season as well?
Yeah, and when you overlay the pandemic on top of that and just the mania of the season, there's and just our personal lives, we're all in different spots with different things going on that we're trying to deal with as well. And I mean, I talk with a lot of colleagues and friends, and all I try to do is just slow myself down, take a breath, make a short list and be very conscious about checking things off and moving through it, but giving myself some time to feel. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. And I mean, I was thinking that when Beth was talking about telephone, we don't spend enough time talking about mental health and the idea that we actually have to be so vulnerable in our work and our lives all the day, which makes us really good fundraisers. And picking up the phone is a good case of that. That's people feel vulnerable and judged by potentially people hanging up on them, and certainly I don't need to tell the fundraisers who are here, the work you do, you have to do it in a vulnerable state. You have to be emotional. You have to use your emotional intelligence as you move through your lives and your craft. Otherwise you're just checking boxes. And I don't want to move through my life checking boxes. So I'm very emotionally aware of how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, give myself permission to take a time out, or a time off. Because otherwise we're just time is just running by us in a really crazy way, and I don't like it very much, you know. So I always have space for people who are passionate about their craft and what they're trying to do. Like, you know, I'll talk to anyone for 15, 20 minutes because I love it. It makes me feel like I'm adding some value into the world, and it slows me down. So yeah, it's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I think we all really need to slow down. I love that phrase, slow down and that, because I see some fundraising programs and we don't even get a chance to pause to think, like, are we headed in the right direction? Are we doing the right things, right? Just because we're hurtling forward. So that idea of building in time to, you know, really reflect and feel, I love that you said that, John, is so important. Joe was just commenting, thank you, Joe, for being so engaged. We're really talking about one of the most fundamental challenges of the fundraising versus ambition dilemma. I see this a lot working with my clients, right? Is that, yeah, we're very ambitious, and largely because a lot of us are working on really high stake missions that we're so passionate about, right? So that temptation can then become that we actually need to pursue every opportunity that is available to us in order to raise the maximum amount of funds. So when we do that, what is happening is the millimeter of progress in a million different directions, as opposed to making significant progress in one direction. So yeah, thanks for weighing in. How about you, Beth Ann? Like, what are you doing, especially during these pandemic times, just to protect some time to think and strategize and also maintain your mental health?
Well, I was thinking about these conflicts of, I've been in places like you have, Emma, where if we don't raise the money by the end, a program's going to be cut. And sometimes the anxiety comes from non-fundraisers in your institution. And I like to time block, and because I like to be available to everybody, because isn't that great? Being a great boss is having an open door policy. But I've really got a time block and ask people to only come and see me for 30 minutes in the morning. Well, you know, sort of before 10, say, you know, come in if you've got a problem. And also time blocking a good part of the afternoon, so that sort of maybe 3:30 on is available, because I can't, first of all, absorb all the anxiety from people who are not fundraisers, who feel like fundraising is the most impossible thing to do. How are we ever going to get the money in? And you need to be able to protect yourself by just doing the work you need to do. And the other thing is getting those calls that you get sometimes. There are lots of joyful calls in fundraising where somebody just snaps at you. I try to remember that somebody is having a bad day, and the only person that they have the strength to be cross with is the person who called on the phone. And, you know, they usually aren't really rude, but they'll be short, or I don't want to talk to you, or why are you calling me again? And to just say, you know, it's no problem. I was just calling to say thank you for your gift to institution, and don't take that personally. You know, some people are under so much stress and yet don't feel like they can have a good different friend to express that to. So I just try to remember that. Keep it so you can focus on your work. You know, you've got your top 10 or top 20. Keep going on that. Don't let the external anxieties get to you. And I also would suggest, you know, especially if you're working from home, you've got to have a separation between your work and your home. There can be a time you can do a pretend commute by walking around, you know, your home, your building, your block. But you've got to break away, or your mind, there's so much pressure on fundraisers, I think, that your mind will not be able to stop spinning on what you need to do and what was left undone.
I'm smiling because I'm coming to you live from my living room, because my office is being occupied by my partner, because everyone's working from home now, right? So yeah, I wanted to go back to what you were saying about time blocking, actually, because I'm such a huge fan of time blocking, and time blocking absolutely changed my life. So I love that. If folks don't know about time blocking, I think it's a really useful way to be able to increase your focus and make sure you're getting to your priorities. But the way I use it is essentially like every morning I have a highest priority area. I usually block 90 minutes for it, and it can vary from morning to morning, but a great way you can adapt that if you're frontline fundraising is, for example, blocking that 90 minutes or even an hour or even less just to look at, for example, phoning your donors, right? Having that quiet time to phone your donors or doing whatever your highest priority task is. Total game changer. So, all right, my friends. So we are about to hit the 25-minute mark. So I think I'm going to wrap us up because we have a whole lot more to talk about on this front next week when we're reconvening on Wednesday, and we are going to be delivering what we're calling your year-end workshop, right? So we're each going to be teaching a little bit, also going to be coaching a whole lot and helping you work on your most immediate challenges right now. So really encourage you to join us. We have designed this workshop to be super fun and super accessible from a price point standpoint. So please look into this. I'm going to drop that link below. You can also find it on my website at 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗎𝗆𝗄𝗎𝗆𝗔𝗏𝒻, because I think, John, it is like a bit of a longer Eventbrite link, right? So unless we've got an easy way to get folks to it,
I made a 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗏𝗄𝗏. I'll send
there
it
you go.
to you.
Excellent. So we'll go ahead and drop that below so folks can find out more. So yes, come and join us. We're really looking forward to it. And I think it's such a great time right now to actually take that opportunity to take a bit of a break and step back and think about your priorities and think about the big picture. And we'll give you that opportunity to do that with us with a whole lot of fun and good company too, because I feel like that's really important right now too, is just taking the time to connect with other folks who are doing similar work to you. All right, friends. Did you have something else that you want to add, Beth?
Do you want me to? I've sent you the 𝗏𝗏. Do you want me to just say it out loud so people know, or?
It's okay. You know what? I'll drop it below so they can click it. Awesome. Unless it's a nice customized one. Go ahead. Sometimes
it's your girlfriend, of course. I called it let's just see. 𝗏𝗏 is bit.ly/EM for Emma, JO for John, BE for me, 1.
Okay.
Okay.
So I love that. Everybody get that. If you
does that mean there's going to be a 2?
We'll drop it below.
It sure does mean there could even be 77 of them.
7.
We'll be really old by that time.
Amazing.
All right, friends, I am going to wrap us up here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you are catching up on the replay, do go ahead and let us know if you have questions. We're going to be checking back. So thank you, John. Thank you, Beth Ann. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And hopefully we will see you next Wednesday at our workshop. All right, friends.
Take care. Bye. Bye.